I just saw a video of a master thief in action, pulling off what is undoubtedly the heist of the century. Experts are already calling it a real-life Ocean's 11 moment. It took place at a McDonald's, with DB Cooper here tweaking and twisting on a Ronald McDonald House charity donation box, and you can just see the surgical precision. This is not his first rodeo. He's in and out in 30 minutes, super speed like a lightning bolt. Luckily, the footage was captured on a phantom 1000 frame per second camera, otherwise we'd only see his afterimage. It's currently unknown how much money he made off with, but it's no doubt a fortune. I imagine that it's probably close to $10 maybe, so this is one of the most impressive cases of larceny I've ever seen here. It was also captured on camera from two separate angles here, so we damn near have a 360-degree video that we can put together of this guy's absolutely embarrassing, degenerate scumbag behavior stealing from charity. So the employee is just standing there filming this whole thing, which is exactly what they should be doing. Intervening in something like this is very dangerous to the employees, so I know they're trained not to, and this should easily lead to identifying and arresting this man. I can see every goddamn fucking strained muscle in his face as he's cranking on this, so surely someone knows him and will report him. So Robin Hood here is stealing from those in need to give to the local crack dealer. For those of you that don't know, Ronald McDonald House is a charity that, from everything I understand about it, is actually a good one. What it does is it provides services to families of sick children that are having long hospital stays. So they have things like places for them to sleep, where they can just go and sleep for free while their children are undergoing treatment at specialized hospitals, so they don't have to pay for hotels or anything like that. And from everything I know, they just provide a lot of really good services to families of sick children that are in the hospital. So to steal from something like that is unfathomably low. And sadly, it's not the only time this has happened. This guy here who looks like meth incarnate is actually someone from my neck of the woods here in Tampa. And 3 years ago, he got nicknamed the Hamburglar. And what he did is he went on this rampage from Tampa to Wesley Chapel, going to McDonald's and stealing the Ronald McDonald House charity donation boxes. And it's assumed by authorities he made off with almost $4,000. There's so much footage of this piece of shit committing the crimes too. So he rolls up in his motorcycle and he always had this red jacket with him. It was like his magician's cape for his fucking vanishing act with the charity boxes. So everywhere he went to the McDonald's, he had this jacket with him. So here's footage of him going into a McDonald's. He makes a small order. I think he just got a Coke or something, and not the Coke that he's used to. So he just did that so that way he'd have an excuse to sit at one of the tables, and he always sat next to the charity boxes. And he gets out his fucking bolt cutters here and just starts going to town. So he starts cutting away at it so that way he could free it. And you can just see in the camera footage here, there is almost no money in that. This was at the height of COVID when he was doing this, so there were even less donations in those boxes. There is probably $5 or $6 there. He eventually cuts it enough where it's free. He throws on his backpack. He leans over to, I don't know, tap it on the ass or something. I actually don't know what he does right here, but he does one little maneuver there, gets up, he gets his red jacket out, and then here comes the big finale. He fiddles with his wiener a little bit there for some reason, maybe getting a semi-chub from all this adrenaline stealing from charity, and then bingo, bango, bongo, jacket over the box, and then he just lifts it off and walks out.
It's the place. This video is from yesterday in Wesley Chapel. It shows him making several trips to break the locks, holding the Ronald McDonald House charity box in place. Then he puts it under his jacket and walks out. Finally, he uses his motorcycle to pick it up and drive off. A few dollars richer, but a million reasons to be ashamed. Here's video of the time he stole from children who are sick in Zephyr Hills, May 26th.
That's how this disgusting fucking loser committed every single one of these crimes, with that trusty jacket by his side. So, what's crazy is, despite all of the footage that exists that clearly show this man's face, to date, I don't believe he's been caught. I was trying to find an update on it because the first video with the guy stealing the charity box reminded me of the Hamburglar here. And I looked into it and I couldn't find any updates on whether or not he'd actually been arrested. So I'm led to assume that he hasn't. Which is always so surprising to me when there's so much footage that exists of a criminal committing a crime and their face attached to it. I always just assume alright, dead to rights, your goose is cooked, Buster, take this, goober, they got you now. But in reality, that's just not how it works. It's not like these are blurry videos or anything. It's not like Sasquatch photos. You can clearly see the guy's face. And in my head up here. Like, when I marinate on it in my noodle, I'm always like, okay, so now they're going to easily be able to identify him. But in reality, that's just not how it works. It's not like the face is like an IP address where the second you see it, you immediately know everything about the person. But I guess the way I imagine it is if he has a criminal record, you could probably take the footage of his face and run it through some kind of facial recognition scanner through the database of the authorities and match it that way. But if he doesn't, if he's somehow squeaky clean, there's not a whole lot they could do with it, I guess. So I imagine in cases like this, you'd have to rely on people helping you identify them, because when this came out, the authorities were making posts like on Facebook and stuff saying like, hey, we need help identifying this individual who's been stealing the Ronald McDonald House charity boxes. If you know anything, if you know him, please contact us to anonymously tip us off with who this is. And I guess there's just not many people that know this guy. I imagine his closest friends are the rats at the dumpster at the Walmart he passes out at every night after shooting up. So there probably just weren't a lot of people who recognized him. Thus, I guess he's been able to get away with it, unless there's an update I missed, but I went to like the 3rd or 4th page of Google, which is, that's fucking forsaken territory right there. That's a barren wasteland going that deep. And I was reading through a ton of articles looking for some kind of update on this guy, and I couldn't find it, so maybe I missed it, or maybe he just really did get away with it, which is such a fucking shame. This dude's still out there on his motorcycle, cranking his hog after stealing all of that money from children and families in need. What a fucking scumbag. This guy and the first guy who stole the charity box absolutely deserve to be thrown in the slammer, obviously. And I just wanted to talk about this a little bit because I saw that video when a buddy of mine sent it, and it immediately reminded me of this previous case. It's also clearly not desperate people in need of money that are stealing these charity boxes. Like, this guy was riding around on a fucking motorcycle, and from what I can tell, a pretty expensive motorcycle at that. So yeah, just terrible pieces of shit. That's really about it. So yeah. Meet the man who stole $1.4 billion with a screwdriver. I mean, he looks pretty proud of himself. I would be too, to be honest. It's pretty creative.
This is a small museum with only a handful of guests visiting each day, and the security guard has just seen 2 of them, a man and a woman, walk briskly out of the front door. The guard sprints outside and catches sight of the couple getting into a car, and, sure enough, the museum's missing painting is sitting on the back seat.
That was easy, case closed.
The museum happens to be situated opposite a police station, and soon enough, the thieves are in custody. But at the subsequent trial, it's clear the man is extremely remorseful. It was he who took the painting, a spur-of-the-moment decision he deeply regrets. Since the man's criminal record is clean, he's released with a suspended sentence, serving no jail time.
Nice.
Nobody knew
Good
it
work.
at the time, but the Swiss authorities had just let the greatest art thief in history slip through their fingers. This is the remarkable story of Stefan Breitwieser, a Frenchman who stole almost $1.5 billion worth of art. To put that number into perspective,
yeah, no one to sell it to. They're not gonna launder money through him.
The 3 most expensive paintings ever sold at auction: Leonardo da Vinci's Salvador Mundi, $450 million. Wilhelm de Kooning's Interchange, $300 million. And Cézanne's The Card Players, $250 million. You would still need to pilfer another $500 million worth of art to surpass Stefan Breitwieser's record. The sheer volume of art Stefan stole is genuinely almost unbelievable. But perhaps even more unbelievable is what he did with it all after he'd stolen it.
He ruined it for
fun. I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, it's probably best if I start at the beginning. And
I bet that son of a bitch stole my socks too.
This one starts with cheese.
Yeah.
Sort of. In March 1995, Stefan Breitwieser was visiting Gruyères, the Swiss town that gave its name to a kind of cheese you've almost certainly enjoyed if you've ever tucked into a traditional Swiss fondue. But Stefan wasn't in town for molten dairy products.
Thanks, Prime Josh.
Along with his new girlfriend, Anne-Catherine Kleinklaus, Stefan had his heart set on seeing Gruyère's medieval castle, specifically its collection of exquisite art. As the couple strolled through the ancient corridors, one piece in particular caught Stefan's eye. A portrait by German painter Christian Wilhelm Dietrich. Staring at the painting, Stefan experienced one of those weird urges that we all have from time to time. A brief and intense desire to do something we really shouldn't. Something like jumping off a bridge, tripping up a passing pensioner, or stealing a painting. By the way, don't feel bad if you occasionally fancy downing an OAP. These kinds of inappropriate urges are so common, they actually have a name: cacoephes. For most people, cacoephes last a couple of milliseconds, but Stefan's lingered. So much so that he mentioned it to that new girlfriend of his. Now, I'd suggest that admitting you're tempted to commit a serious felony to your new Tinder date is usually a good way to earn yourself the in-person equivalent of a swipe left. But, to Stefan's surprise, his new girlfriend was all for it. The castle was basically deserted. Apparently all the tourists were off eating fondue, and all Stefan had to do was remove the painting from its frame, slip the canvas into his rucksack, and walk.
Well, that's easy. They were just asking for it to be stolen. He did them a favor.
But an international art crime career, the likes of which the world had never before seen, had just begun.
There's Risabinder.
Because, over the course of the following 6 years, Stefan completed a grand total of 230
Jesus Christ!
heists at 172 galleries in at least 7 different countries.
Sounds like there's no security, so I know exactly how he did it.
Long-term career choice. Sooner or later,
Thanks for
you're either
that
going to
There's
get
some
caught
Samster.
or make so much cash that you can retire to your own private island in Micronesia. If you're picturing grand heists with Ocean's 11 style planning and huge teams of specialists, you're dead wrong. There were no carefully or orchestrated distractions, no detailed museum schematics, and no jaunts through conveniently positioned air vents. In fact, these heists weren't even committed at night. They took place during opening hours and
people probably just saw him steal.
Guards in the very same room. But all were almost laughably basic, pretty much involving waiting till nobody was looking, and then simply picking up whatever he fancied and walking out the front door. Paintings would be slipped
that
from
sounds about
frames
right.
and hidden under a loose-fitting coat, and display cases were opened with a screwdriver one twist at a time over the space of 20 minutes or so. The most high-tech
and nobody saw this in 172 galleries? 172 galleries and no one saw him do this?
Inconveniently placed CCTV cameras into facing away from whatever it was he was about.
And nobody saw this?
It's hard to believe that's all it took for Stefan to pilfer close to $1.5 billion worth of loot.
What?
But these basic tricks were so effective, he was often able to steal from the same museum multiple times in the space of just a few weeks. I should point out that estimates as to the exact value of the artwork Stefan stole vary, but the figure most commonly quoted is the one I mentioned earlier, $1.4 billion. According to the New York Times, it might have been as much as 1.9 billion. And if that upper limit is correct,
How in the
as of 2001, when this remarkable crime spree came to an abrupt end, Stefan Breitwieser, art thief, would have been amongst the top 250 richest people on the planet.
But he has no one to sell it to.
Not that you'd have known it from looking at him. In fact, to the outside world, Stefan and Anne Catherine, now his long-term girlfriend, appeared to be stone cold broke.
No, you can't sell the paintings.
Whilst Anne Catherine,
all this shitty art is just used for money laundering.
So short that Stefan's mother
no one's gonna launder money through Stefan.
Food and petrol money. Was this apparent poverty some kind of front then? A Gus from Breaking Bad style cover story to hide their immense wealth from the outside world? Stefan and Anne Catherine appeared close to destitute because that's exactly what they were. Despite having stolen well over $1 billion worth of fine art.
How did they not catch him by seeing who pushed the camera? That's what I want to know.
And not because they'd blown their riches on boats and hoes either. Despite having taken enormous risks to steal hundreds of treasures of almost unimaginable value, Stefan Breitwieser never sold a single one of them. Not one. And the reason why is kind of hilarious. Stefan didn't become the world's greatest art thief to get rich quick. He did so because he loved art. Instead of selling the pieces he stole, he kept them in the apartment he shared with Anne-Catherine, simply to have the pleasure of owning and admiring them.
Just print it out on
the
Google.
apartment in question was in the attic of Stefan's mother's house in the
What the
city
fuck is
of
the point?
Mulhouse, France. The couple were so poor they couldn't afford to rent. But selling a world-famous piece of art
It's impossible.
a seriously tricky business.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna
You
happen.
can't just set up an eBay listing and watch the £1 million bids roll in. The market for this kind of thing is tiny, and in order to access that, you're probably going to need to make friends with some very dangerous people to help you get the word out. But since Stefan never put a single piece of art up for sale, he remained essentially invisible to the police. If they didn't catch him in the act of stealing, they weren't going to
catch him in the act of pushing a camera away while on camera.
Unusual that the police had basically no idea who or what they were dealing with. Their best guess was that some kind of highly professional international cartel was behind the crimes.
Far more
In
embarrassing.
reality, they were utterly stumped. Well, Stefan simply couldn't stop, and it was only a matter of time before something went wrong.
Someone opened
The
their
item
eyes.
that eventually ended his reign of art-based terror was, of all things, a bugle. At the start of this video, I mentioned that Stefan had been caught stealing a painting in Lucerne back in 1997. He'd gotten away with little more than a slap on the wrist at the time, but during the process of being booked, he'd had his fingerprints taken. From that moment on, he'd been careful to wear gloves during his thefts, to ensure he never left behind any prints that could be matched to his earlier arrest. Oh, and by the way, just to make things even spicier, this bugle happened to be located in the Richard Wagner Museum in, of all places, Lucerne, the very same city he'd been caught the first time.
Stefan.
I told you this man had balls of legend. So it was decided that Anne-Catherine should be the one to erase the
Jesus
prints.
Christ.
But this was a risky job, and Stefan decided to travel with her for a bit of moral support. As
This guy's
Anne-Catherine entered the
outrageously
museum,
dumb. It's
Stefan
crazy.
took a walk around the grounds to distract himself from worrying. Unfortunately for him, he was recognized by a man who'd seen him at the museum on the day of the theft. The police were called, and Stefan soon found himself being arrested for a second time. To begin with, he wasn't unduly concerned. After all, he'd been caught before and gotten away with it. All he had to do was convince the police he was a remorseful first offender. And at first, that little ruse seemed to be effective. But then, something changed. The officers holding Stefan stopped engaging with him, and the sympathy his remorseful idiot routine had earned him evaporated overnight. Stefan started to fear the worst, and with good reason. Someone in the department had uncovered the report from the previous theft in Lucerne, and as a result, the police were no longer viewing him as an opportunist who'd snapped the bugle on impulse, but as a potential serial
The
arson.
dumbest thief of all
A few
time.
weeks after the arrest, Swiss police secured an international search warrant, allowing them to enter Stefan's attic apartment in Mulhouse. You know, the one containing $1.5 billion worth of stolen art. It's safe to say that as the team of officers arrived to carry out the search, none of them were prepared for what they would find inside Stefan's modest home. Which was nothing. No works of art lining the walls, no antiques, no priceless jewelry, not even a bugle.
No, I haven't read
Just
anything or watched
a bare
anything on it
attic
yet.
apartment, much like
Chat
any
mentioned it
other.
once, though.
Wait, what? On witnessing her boyfriend being apprehended by the police at the Wagner Museum in Lucerne, Anne-Catherine had immediately realized the dangers and sprung into action, driving back home and alerting the one person every man can rely on when shit really hits the fan: his mother. And Mrs. Breitweiser had outdone herself. Over the course of several days, she'd gathered up every single piece of art her son had ever stolen, packed it all up into her car, and gotten it the hell out of there. Anything that sank ended up in a nearby
No!
canal. And the paintings, those centuries-old priceless works of art, were burnt to ashes.
Holy
as
shit.
part of what may very well have been the most expensive private bonfire in history. The last few odds and ends were
That's
unceremoniously dumped in a nearby forest. Had the Rhone-Rhine Canal been just a little deeper, Stefan Breitwieser might once again have slipped through the fingers of the justice system. But it wasn't to be. Hikers spotted a curious twinkle from the depths of the canal about a week after the haul had been dumped. And the rest is history.
That's fucking
Police
crazy.
frogmen were called in to dredge the waterway, and close to 100 treasures from Stefan's mighty hoard were fished out and catalogued. Of course, at this point, the authorities had no idea how all that stuff had actually ended up in the canal. But one of the officers holding Stefan in Switzerland got wind of the find, and on a whim, decided to see if he could link the treasures to his bugle thief. After all, they'd been found not too far from his home city. During an interrogation, the officers showed Stefan a picture of one of the artifacts recovered from the canal. Stefan had no idea what his mother had been up to since his arrest. And so, on seeing an image of one of his most prized possessions in the hands of the police, he reached the obvious conclusion. They'd searched his apartment and found his hoard. The game was up. Stefan promptly confessed to having stolen the piece, matter-of-factly explaining when and where he'd taken it. The officer was absolutely delighted.
Well, I
He'd
imagine
figured
he
this
would be.
whole
That's
idea
big.
was a long shot, but he'd hit the jackpot first time. Stefan was shown image after image of rare and expensive artwork stolen from all around Europe, and he confessed to having stolen every single piece. Never in their wildest dreams had the Swiss police thought that this one man could have possibly taken everything they dredged out of the canal.
Well, why are they believing him? He could be
Like,
covering
all on
for
his
the other
own.
people.
And yet, quite clearly, he had. So, what punishment does a man receive for
Reese of Dunk.
stealing over $1 billion worth of art? Hands chopped off at the wrists, tongue drawn and quartered, guillotine to the face? No, just 3 years in prison.
What?
Stefan only served a little over 2 of those. His mother, for her part in disposing of the art, served just 18 months. And Catherine, hinting that she too had been gifted with a fairly weighty set of metaphorical balls, denied having any involvement in the thefts whatsoever. In fact, she claimed to have
Thank you,
had
some
no
queso.
idea Stefan was even an art thief. The court probably wouldn't have bought it, but it seems Stefan was happy to take the bullet for his girlfriend, because he confirmed every word that came out of her mouth. And Catherine was sentenced to 6 months for receiving stolen goods, but she only spent a single night behind bars.
Oh my god.
It doesn't end quite there either, because it turns out prison did absolutely nothing to reform Stefan Breitwieser. In 2011, police found more than 30 works of art stashed in his house. Stolen, naturally.
Just sell
He
it,
was sentenced to over
Stefan.
3 years behind bars.
Jesus.
And in 2019, he was arrested once again for trying to sell a paperweight stolen from a museum in San Luis on eBay.
Thank you. At least you tried to
I
sell
know,
it this
he got
time.
sloppy. But hey, sloppy or not, Stefan Breitwieser remains quite possibly the greatest art thief to have ever.
No, he's more the dumbest
Thanks
thief
for
to
watching.
ever exist, I would say.
Do you really?
He just chose the right target. Like, he's perhaps one of the dumbest thieves I've ever heard of. He just went to the right places. All he did was take the fucking art off of the wall when no one was looking at him. That's like something you do as a child when you take a cookie out of the jar when your mom leaves the room. No one else thought of it like he did? Yeah, because it's so stupid. But I guess, to be fair, if you've ever been to an art museum, I've only been to one actual one. I went to the Salvador Dali Museum when I was a kid. There's no security. There is only cameras, and his strategy was just push the camera, and I guess they just never checked the cameras to see if it got pushed. So I guess just by pushing it and then waiting, you could just take anything from any art museum ever. Steal a painting. I kind of want to now. It seems like it's no punishment. That was pretty interesting. Probably not in America. Well, true, yeah, probably not in America. You can go to jail for like 10 years if you steal something that costs $500. from like a gas station. He would love NFTs. Yeah, he's still like trapped in this archaic way of stealing art. He really should just steal NFTs at this point. It'd save him a lot of trouble. And there's no consequence. Godslap NFT win. Unironically, a great fucking idea. Just called Godslap an NFT. And then you get those fucking dumb brainwashed idiots that praise things like the Red Ape family and just spend millions on it for no reason just because it says it's an NFT. So I'll just put like every issue as an NFT or something and let them fucking toss money at me for no reason. Oh yeah, there's plenty of NFTs that use me. And every streamer ever on Twitch, no matter how big or small, they have an NFT right now that they haven't sanctioned. It's just everyone's trying everything to make as much money as possible through NFTs from these fucking dumb idiots. People just keep making the worst ones. One of those big ape-themed ones just disappeared from the internet with almost 3 mil. Which one? Oh, alright. I think I'm gonna call it a night. I'm getting tired. The new Jubilee video. That channel sucks now. I used to love Jubilee like 2 years ago. Now it's just always the same kind of video. It's not very interesting. Which one did you want me to see? 6 theater kids versus a fake. The rich versus poor. Is the economy rigged? This is what I want to watch.
As a real estate guy, I can make millions of dollars and use the exact same tax loopholes that a Donald Trump would use and pay effectively no tax. And does that make me a bad guy, or did I just study the tax code?
It makes you a bad guy, yeah.
Get fucked, idiot. So why do you want me to watch this? This seems really boring. Thanks for 2 gift subs, Matthew.
Step forward if you agree.
You're telling me this guy's poor? There's no fucking way. This is an actor right here. This guy is definitely not poor. Look at that. This guy's looking nice. He kind of looks like Pedro Pascal. 14 guys compare. Why do people still want me to watch Jubilee? It's not fun. Shit's trash. Just actual garbage. Man, why are you such a douchebag? Because I didn't want to watch the political video you kept spamming? Sorry, others are interested in actual intellectual content. Yeah, man, I'm sure these high schoolers are gonna discuss this on a really intellectual level. I'm sure that'll be pretty insightful. When you hit puberty twice. Is that a meme? Man, this sounds wonderful. There's a rainbow. They got a demon up there. God damn, that guy's awesome. Where is he? Is this guy? His voice just sounds like a fucking flat tire, really. That's awesome. Corpse? Yeah, a little bit. That man's absolutely a demon. Man, this quartet is fantastic. Oh, it's this guy again, but older.
Will be my God.
Boo, his normal voice isn't that low.
I'm a
That's cool. That guy seems nice. GDF official. Thanks to resub FedEx. Alright. Is this just your channel? What is this? These are just TikToks. But, well, I mean, we're here anyway. Let's go.
What's up, guys? Today I'm eating birria tacos. Ever heard of them? Well, maybe you have, but I bet you've never heard of the first 9/11.
After being elected president of Chile on September 4th, 1970, Salvador Allende was a dead man. U.S. President Richard Nixon and his national security
Tier
advisor
1
Henry
Cosmic and the
Kissinger
gift sub
immediately
Rhinox.
began staging their coup. On September 11th, 1973, their wish was granted. Tanks fired while they rolled down the boulevards toward the presidential palace as fighter jets blew up
that's
government
rough.
buildings. 24 rockets would be fired into the presidential palace. All of this while U.S.
Never knew
naval
about
ships
that.
sat offshore and U.S. Air Force patrolled the skies, watching their plan unfold. Salvador Allende's lifeless body would be taken out of the presidential palace in a stretcher. The country was now in the hands of General Augusto Pinochet, and upon seizing control, he had over 1,000 people immediately liquidated and thrown into mass graves. Roughly 13,000
Man, what a bad
civilians were
guy.
arrested, thrown into trucks, and imprisoned. Many would be taken to football stadiums in Santiago and put in locker rooms transformed into torture chambers. Pinochet would send his general Sergio Arellano Stark on a helicopter mission known as the Caravan of Death, where he would fly from prison to prison with his roaming death squad.
Didn't Chile
executing
just
up to
get like a
26
35-year-old
prisoners at a time.
president
Thousands of these prisoners would
who likes
become the
Deftones?
disappeared, where people would simply vanish without a trace. With families holding on to hope that their loved ones were still alive, they would never be seen again. By the end of it, 80,000 people would be imprisoned, and more than 3,000 perished.
That was pretty insightful. Those tacos must have slapped, though. All that from a burrito taco. Goddamn. Every time you see a robbery in a movie or something, it's always super impressive. They'll have like these incredibly well laid out plans, full-blown Ocean's 11 type shit where they'll have like a getaway driver, 15 aerospace engineers on standby just in case they need them. They'll have like Jimmy Neutron in the lab cook up some crazy device to break into the big vault for millions of dollars. And it just always seems like, damn, you have to be a galaxy brain, 10-digit IQ mastermind in order to be a professional criminal. But then when you watch like a heist or a robbery in the real world, it's nothing like the movies most of the time. The plans are laid out in crayon 3 seconds before executing them. They're not looking at building blueprints. They turn their brain off and just go fucking wacky. They get Insano style. So, like, they'll just run in there, like, grab, like, 5 things and then just, like, shuffle out the door, and that's the extent of it, and then they get caught 5 minutes later. And today I saw a robbery that I think is probably one of the worst ones ever recorded. It is just, I feel bad for the guy. Like, watching him rob it is agonizing because it's so incredibly slow. This dude robbed a Little Caesars in like -5 times speed. I felt like I was watching an NFL replay while watching this man try and rob the cash register. They filmed him for over 1 minute and 30 seconds. He just sat there trying to rob them. At first glance, I thought this was Pay Money Wubby robbing the place, and I thought to myself, God damn, he is really doing everything he can to get to the bottom of his turd kebab mystery. But then I realized that this is just like a generic default character in GTA Online. This was just like a preset. This guy is coming in here not even trying to disguise himself. Like, he didn't even bother to cover his face. He put on sunglasses, but they're too loose and they keep falling off. It's a disaster. It's like robbery ASMR. He's not talking, the employees are just kind of making fun of him. It's just like they're roasting him. No one's taking him seriously. It's so unbelievably goofy. And the thought process here to rob a Little Caesars, bro, the pizzas are $5. How much money do you possibly think you can get from the cash register? He was better off just taking the whole register and trying to sell that. He would have made more money that way. He's going through this whole song and dance prying open the cash register, but he probably would have made more money just standing outside making balloon animals for people that came into the Little Caesars. He would have got more in tips than he did out of this register. It is $5 pizzas. I don't know what he was expecting. He hasn't exactly hit fucking Fort Knox here. It's Little Caesars. $5 pies. Like, I think he maybe got $20. Maybe.
That's all you getting, bro? $60, bro?
I absolutely love that response from the employees. No, I just work here. Like, I'm not gonna risk my life. I'm not gonna beat this man's ass and risk, getting myself in trouble for the sake of saving $60 for Little Caesars. I don't care that much. I'm not paid to be like a fucking Little Caesars gladiator and fight for Little Caesars honor. That's the right way of handling things. Just the employees like, all right, you're robbing it? Okay, I'm not gonna stop you. I'll just call the police, which they do. And then they just sit here and record all of it for evidence. And this man just keeps flashing the camera with his whole goddamn face. They did the absolute perfect thing here in this situation.
Take that whole shit. Let me get some.
Yo, this nigga really just sitting here, bro.
Yo, that's all you gonna take?
Don't touch me. Don't touch nothing. Don't touch nothing, bro. Don't touch nothing.
No fingerprints on. Yes. Yes.
This is where it gets so good. So this guy with all 3 brain cells and every neuron in that goddamn barren wasteland of a head starts firing, and he's like, oh my god, I left my fingerprints at the scene. I know what happens next. I've watched CSI Miami. So he goes back in and tries to wipe down the register, as if the fingerprints are the main concern here, even though he's flashed his whole face with no sunglasses to the camera like 8 times by now. And he's doing all of this in the slowest speed imaginable. He's entered cruise control. It's like there's so much evidence here, and the one thing he's concerned about is fingerprints. So he goes in and tries to clean the scene. Very thorough job too. But greed gets the best of him. He became gluttonous. So he goes in for more money, leaving more prints. Yeah, so he grabbed an extra like $3 there and then tried to wipe down those extra prints, but kept missing the areas that his greasy paws were touching, and then just skedaddles in the slowest getaway of all time, just barely walking. He would have been faster if he crawled away. Like, Jesus Christ. All in all, I can't imagine he got more than 20 bucks. The guy in the video said 60, but I don't believe that. There's no way he pulled $60 out of that fucking register. All in all, he spent like a minute and a half emptying a register, struggling the entire way, looking super stupid just to walk away with less money than the register costs for repairs, and risking jail time. If he had spent this long just collecting quarters from a wishing well, he would have made more money.
That's all you gonna take? No, bro, you don't work here, bro. Don't get into nothing, bro. They ain't
don't
worth
touch
it.
nothing.
They
Don't
ain't worth it.
Yo, the store is shut down. The store is shut down, bro.
Yo.
I've never seen a robbery where at the end of it, everyone's laughing at the robber. Like, what? How shameful. How truly awful. The most miserable and slowest robbery ever recorded here. It's like a PSA. You know those like over-the-top PSAs where it's like, you don't want to smoke a cigarette because you'll explode. And they just have like these crazy exaggerated cigarette smoking things. That's what happened here with this robbery. This is how, watch out kids, you don't want to rob. Look at how hard it is. And he's like fucking struggling with it for 2 minutes. Oh my god. There's no follow-up. I don't know if he got arrested. There probably won't be a follow-up since it's like a petty crime, but I'm sure he didn't get away for long. He was probably arrested in the parking lot because he probably just sat there. I don't even think he even bothered to like get away. But you can also see that the customer that had come in while the guy was still robbing them was really contemplating if it was worth beating this guy's ass. He could have easily snapped him in half, I think, and then he even like, wandered out the door a bit to contemplate further, but the employees are like, bro, it's really not worth it. And it wasn't. He didn't need to beat his ass. This was far more embarrassing than any ass beating could have been. So hopefully that customer also did get like some pizza or something, and they all just laughed about it. What a remarkably embarrassing robbery, and I just wanted to share this today because it put a smile on my face. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah, I recently watched a video from a channel called Crime Zone, which put together this beautiful piece on one of the most interesting criminals I've ever heard of. It just seems like something more out of a cartoon than reality, like the real world Dirty Dan here. I'll quickly hit you with a 30-second Shark Tank pitch to get you interested and tell you why you should care. Basically, an army veteran uses his skills to target McDonald's locations for robbery, and his specialty was busting in through the rooftop. So he would bring tools, cut through the roof, and drop in like an angel on the employees, and he had the manners of an angel too. He'd let them get their coats. They all said that he was really nice, and asked them to just wait in like the ice locker, the freezer, and he'd rob them and leave. And he did this for quite some time before being apprehended. Spoilers, he gets caught. But he doesn't spend too long in jail because he hatched a galaxy brain scheme to break out, which he executed flawlessly, becoming the first prisoner at that facility to ever break out successfully. And he turns back to a life of crime, but no longer going to the Ronald McDonald Playhouse of Pain. Instead, he transitions to living in a Toys R Us and gradually stealing their toys. So what he does is he lives at a Toys R Us by living behind a bike rack. He carves out his own little like hidden man cave in the walls. I won't spoil how it all ends or anything like that, but I just wanted to get like the cliff notes out here because I just find it so wild. I'll put a link to the original video in the description, of course, so you can watch the entire thing, but I'll show you some clips from when we watched it. Alright, let's start with, let's see Roofman. This sounds kind of interesting. I do love criminals that hide in attics and shit.
Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Unbeknownst
Quick question, is there still a massive breakfast rush for McDonald's? I remember when I was a kid that was the shit, but I feel like McDonald's has just such steep competition these days for the breakfast slot. Do we have any like big McDonald's breakfast enthusiasts here? Because near me it's kind of just like no one cares anymore. Overwhelmingly yes. Wow. I just think the McDonald's breakfast has really fallen off. It's like Netflix stock, but for food.
Once he had the cash, the masked robber walked all of the employees into the cooler where they were locked inside.
It seems kind of nice.
They were asked if they wanted to grab their coats to stay warm while they waited for help to arrive. After
they have a police sketch and it's just a Hamburglar.
Fled. While the employees
that's not the
didn't know it
Hamburglar
at the time.
I saw a video of 2 women stealing everyone's food inside a restaurant. Don't remember where, though. Probably McDonald's. Actually, I take that back. Probably Waffle House. Waffle House is a restaurant you go to and you're just looking for fights. And maybe, like, a waffle or two. I think it's in Prime Sun City. So this is basically the only fast food specialized robber is what I'm getting.
While little is known about why Jeffrey Allen Manchester chose to turn to a life of crime, what we do know
the better question is why turn to a life of crime for fast
robber
food?
Known as Roofman, he lived what appeared to be a normal life, to put his military training to a different kind of use. In November of 1998...
Do you really need military training to rob a McDonald's? I feel like you could just go in and be like, I just want the money in the register, and like, make like a finger gun in your jacket and be like, yeah, just take it. Like, I don't think you really needed all like the special ops training just to become like a fucking Filet-O-Fish fondler. Felon. Damn, that would have been better instead of fucking fondler. It doesn't even make sense. But man, this guy, those McDonald's employees, they didn't know who they were fucking with when he busted through their ceiling. One second they're just serving up a quarter pounder, next second they got goddamn Jason Bourne coming through the top turnbuckle. That's
While
cute.
the bulk of Manchester's robberies were committed in California, he would eventually hit McDonald's locations in Nevada, Oregon, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Maryland, Virginia, and both of the Carolinas, making off with an estimated $100,000. Manchester would use tools to cut a hole in the roof of the location, dropping down anywhere from 10 to 15 feet.
So what? I still am super confused on why the roof. What tactical advantage does he get from busting in right here behind the counter as opposed to just rushing through here and jumping over the counter? Just like the element of surprise? No alarm? I guess, but there's still employees there either way, right? Because like they said, he was always really nice to the employees and telling them to get to the back and shit, so there's still people there. So at that point, the alarm's kind of worthless, wouldn't you think?
When they caught up to him a short time later, he was still carrying his rifle, as well as a nylon bag containing drills, pry tools, hammers, and all of the cash he had stolen from the 2 McDonald's locations. True to his reputation, Manchester didn't put up a fight when cornered by officers, instead telling them, quote, "You guys did a really good job today." With Manchester's arrest came a flurry of news articles announcing he was ultimately sentenced to 45 years in prison on charges ranging from robbery with a dangerous weapon to kidnapping. Little did anyone know, that his story was far from over.
Really? He busted a hole out of the
Following
prison
his
cell?
conviction at the end of 2000,
Went out the
Jeffrey
roof?
Manchester was sent on the afternoon of June 15th, 2004.
Now the roof
Jeffrey
man can be
Manchester
anywhere.
put his plan into action and escaped from the Brown Creek Correctional Institution, making him the first person to do so in the facility's 11-year history.
Hey, that's pretty
Once
good.
again,
Well, 11
the
years
roof
isn't
man
super long.
was
That's still
free.
good.
It was here, at an unassuming retail plaza, that he would set up a living space that would baffle and amuse both the public and law enforcement
oh my God, he
officials
opened his
for
own
years to
McDonald's.
come.
A
For his
franchise
new
owner.
home, the roof man chose a Toys R Us store located in a complex called the Triangle Shopping Center, just off of Monroe Road. He raced remote control cars on the roof in the middle of the night, rode bikes around the store for exercise, and managed to get most of the nourishment that he needed by stealing and eating baby food.
Toys R
funny-
Us had all kinds of snacks. He didn't need baby food. I remember back in the heyday at Toys R Us, you could get like fucking pounds of Doritos and shit. My man's over there just eating like meat sticks and apple mush when he could have been feasting on Doritos and Oreos. This man just said, fuck it, I want the Gerbers. Thanks for some Dreadnought in the prime elbow. This actually seems like something out of Codename Kids Next Door. Like one of the villains infiltrates a toy store that the kids are shopping at in order to torment them and scare them at night. Man's actually the boogeyman at the Jeffrey's Play Palace here. I have looked literally everywhere in the world for a single picture of this man's laboratory here. You know, Dexter's lab kind of shit. Because the way it's described in the video and the way it's described by the authorities, it sounds fucking incredible. He had baby monitor surveillance spy systems set up across the store to keep eyes on everyone, all the workers and all the customers and everything. He had so many toys and shit and a really elaborate setup with running water all in his like secret man cave in the Toys R Us walls. I want so badly to know what that actually looked like. I can't imagine a world where they didn't take pictures of it. They'd have to, right? Like, it's evidence. So surely those pictures exist somewhere, and I am begging any authorities that were involved in this case to just release the photo evidence. Let us see it. Let us just take a gander. I have to know what his little secret lair looked like here in this Toys R Us, because it must have been so fucking cool. Or maybe it's overhyped and it was actually just like a really small like coffin of a couple of toys that he'd stay at. Who knows? But it just sounds so impressive and I would love to know what it looks like. But unfortunately, I can't find a single picture of it anywhere. I can't even find like a single like artistic interpretation of it from anyone from the scene. Nothing. But I know those pictures have to have existed. So I hope someday they surface.
And when the holiday season rolled around, no one donated more to the congregation's toy drive than he did. Of course, these toys were actually all stolen from the store where the roof man was hiding
Who's
out.
gonna miss the toys though, huh?
It was during this time that he realized he could tunnel directly through the store's wall into the adjacent unit, which just so happened to be an abandoned Circuit City. This time,
maybe this guy is responsible for Toys R Us and Circuit City going under. After they found out that this man was living in their walls for, it's been almost a year, I think now. They just got so fucking paranoid that the business started sinking. God damn. What a cool setup, though. That is like the most early 2000s shit imaginable. Like, that is your early 2000s shopping starting kit. Toys R Us, Circuit City, and Radio Shack. The only thing he's missing is a Blockbuster. Then he tunnels underground and goes right to Blockbuster or some shit.
he also added more baby monitors to add to his makeshift surveillance system, and even
shit.
installed a smoke detector and piped in water from the Toys R Us next door.
Wait,
Many reports-
how would nobody ever hear that? He piped in his own water line? How would he be able to successfully do that? It's not like, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do that, I guess, if you tee off of an already existing line, but still, I feel like you'd absolutely hear that, because you have to like drill into the walls and shit, and you have to tee off that pipe. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess just doing it like in the dead of night without anyone being around, you'd probably never notice.
In order to continue to travel between the Toys R Us and the Circuit City as he pleased, Manchester left the tunnel between the 2 units intact.
I bet so many kids saw him behind the bike rack and just got
created
scared and
in
didn't
with
say
the
anything.
walls on both sides. On December 26th, he decided it was time to pull off the big robbery that he had been planning. Unfortunately for the roof man, when he tried to pull off the crime, things did not go according to plan. Similar to the
Slipped on a
2000
banana
robbery
peel.
in Belmont, when he held up the Toys R Us, employees were able to contact police sooner than he anticipated. Manchester responded by punching her, stealing her gun, and running away.
That's aggressive.
Amazingly,
he used to be
though
so
the
nice.
roof man seemed cornered,
Circuit
he
City
managed to
changed
escape
him.
through his trapdoors undetected. It's unclear whether or not he returned to the hideout within the Circuit City, identified him as the man who had been going by the name John Zorin, and were shocked to discover who he really was. In a bid to cover his tracks, Manchester burned down a dentist office where he had gotten his teeth fixed while on the run.
How does that...
Presumably worried that police would be able to find his dental records there.
Okay.
This had the opposite effect of what he
Man,
intended.
prison really changed
and only
him.
made investigators more suspicious. Manchester showed up, believing he would be able to see his girlfriend one last time before continuing his life on the run. He arrived with flowers, but was arrested by waiting officers before he could make it inside the apartment. Manchester is currently incarcerated
escape
at
again.
the Central Prison
The
in
roof
Raleigh,
man's not done.
where his projected release date is December 4th, 2036. Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out?
What a cool story.
Tell us about them in the comments section below. Thank you for watching.
That prison is 5 minutes from my house. Bro, you might want to move just in case the roof man gets out. He'll start living in your walls. Sleep in fear, man. Sleep in fear. Have you ever seen a senator burglarizing her stepmother in the middle of the night, getting caught in the act, then arrested, then losing her position while facing felony burglary charges? Well, you're about to.
On April 22, 2024, Becker County Police Department in Minnesota received a 911 call reporting an active break-in. Little did they know, they would soon find out the suspect is an elected senator for the state of Minnesota.
When I read the title from Midwest Safety, I immediately pictured Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising. Half expected to click into this video and get the monologue, "Nanomachine, son. Played college ball, you know. Could've gone pro if I didn't burglarize my stepmother." But it turns out that's not the case.
Becker County 911.
Somebody just broke into my house.
Oh,
They
yeah?
just ran down into my basement.
Did you get a look at him at all?
No, it was completely dark. I tripped over him. He was on the floor next to my bed. I ran downstairs into my basement.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, the burglar is a senator named Nicole Mitchell. Well, now former Senator Nicole Mitchell. And she, I think, holds the title of the most incompetent burglar in human history. This is some shit out of Home Alone. This is the not-so-wet bandit here. I don't know what the thought process was. So apparently she was, like, hiding under or near her stepmother's bed, and her stepmother tripped over her, which is how she was alerted to her presence. And then she just, like, fucking pitter-patters her way to the basement to try and flee. So then the stepmother's like, what the fuck? What in tarnation? Calls the police, and she's like more confused than anything. Like, yeah, there's a burglar here. I tripped over him. He was like under my bed. I don't know if it was like a panty raid or what, but like they were under my bed, so I tripped over him. Would really love if you came and arrested them. They ran into my basement, I think.
I have a little steak knife in my hand right now.
Steak knife? Okay. All right.
I don't know where they could have. I don't see any,
She's clearly very frightened, like anyone would be in this situation. She's grabbed a steak knife to protect herself if things go south. I imagine she'd bust out some fucking Leon S. Kennedy level moves if, you know, the situation called for it, but luckily the police got there in a pretty timely fashion, it seems, because when they arrive, the burglar is still there.
Police department, make yourself known. 37 Becker got a little motion underneath the stairs in the house. Sounds like he's trying to get outside of the back to the north of the house. Get on the ground.
Okay.
Get on the ground.
Carol? Yeah? It's Nicole. It's Nicole? I was just trying to get a couple of my dad's things because he wouldn't talk to me anymore.
So they got her, and then the big reveal, the huge plot twist. She calls her stepmother by name, and the stepmother is shocked that it's her stepdaughter, Nicole. And she tries to explain that she was just there to get a few of her dad's things. Now that story is going to change a lot over the course of this adventure, but make a note of this. She's there because she just wants to get some of her father's belongings, which explains why she's in a cartoonish cat burglar outfit. It actually looks like she's going to a Halloween costume party, but couldn't think of any ideas, so stopped by Spirit Halloween and grabbed the cheapest burglar costume she could find for it. It is unbelievable how, like, cliche this outfit is. I am stunned to see a real burglary from someone dressed like this. I'm also shocked that she didn't just, like, bolt for the front door and run away. Instead, she trapped herself in the basement and just squatted there, literally just standing in the middle of the bathroom. I don't know if she tried to do like a Blair Witch staring at the wall or something, like, if I can't see them, they can't see me. I have no idea, but it was not the cleanest getaway. And speaking of clean, you need to clean yourself up using Cheeky Soap. And great news, we just introduced a new scent into the family here, Bahami Mami. It's a tropical scent. It is fantastic, you're gonna love it, and you need to upgrade your hygiene. It's time, and this is the best way of doing it. Highly moisturizing body soap, best soap in the universe. Go to usecheeky.com and get some.
She also stole documents out of the house. She's my stepdaughter.
I didn't steal any documents. How did I steal documents?
Nicole, what's your last name?
Mitchell.
Stand up.
No one stole anything here, Carol. I don't have anything on me.
If you want to talk. You got anything on you?
No.
Yeah, what a nonsensical thought process, Carol. Obviously no one stole anything. What an outlandish thought to even cross your head. Why would you even get the idea that there could have been a burglary taking place here just because I'm in your house unannounced in the middle of the night, hiding under your bed, dressed like I'm about to go rob a bank? What? Does that mean all of a sudden I'm here stealing something? No.
Why was she squatting down next to my bed?
Who is this to you?
Pardon?
Who is this to you?
She's my stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter.
She's also a Minnesota senator.
A great question, Carol. Why was she squatting down next to your bed? The world may never know. The Lord has no idea.
She lives in the Twin Cities.
Unknown to the officer at the time, the suspect previously was a meteorologist for the Weather Channel and a local news anchor before being elected a senator.
She's a senator?
Yeah. Yeah, was.
Was or is currently?
Well, she is. I meant after this.
Oh.
Her stepdaughter may have been a meteorologist predicting the weather, but Carol predicted the future here with this one, and she was right on the money. It is past tense. Nicole was a senator, but after this burglary, she is no longer, and is facing some super serious charges.
My husband passed away, just her father. And the day after he died, her aunt came here, and they walked out with all these, it was Tuesday.
Okay.
They were walking out the door with all these forms, and I ran out the door and said, "What are you guys doing?" Nancy said, "We're just trying to help you, just trying to figure out where you are financially."
No, it's a...
So here's where breadcrumbs start to connect a little bit. Carol mentions that Nicole is very close to one of her aunts, and after her husband passed away, they came and took some documents from this house while saying that they're just making sure she's doing everything, correct when it comes to finances. Which... that smells a little fishy. There's something stinky afoot there. And now all of a sudden Nicole is back unannounced in the middle of the night dressed like a fucking thief class in an MMO.
My dad died last year. She's paranoid. Well, now she's really paranoid. But,
Has she done this before?
Not that, but she's insisted that my son should get nothing, she should get everything, all that stuff.
Where'd she come in at?
Get into my banks.
You know?
I don't have a clue.
when everybody tried to help her right after the funeral.
She's not trying to help me, she's trying to get money.
She kept... I can show you my bank account.
Well, let's go upstairs.
So this is Nicole Mitchell's strategy. This is her go-to play here to try and weasel her way out of the trouble she's in. The crux of her argument for why she's there is that her stepmother is paranoid, and she's been mentally declining, and she's senile, doesn't understand things, so she's, talking all crazy, all that paranoia. But Carol, I think, seems pretty sharp here in recognizing that Nicole is probably there for financial reasons again, because it seems like that's something that's happened in the past, granted not to this level. And Nicole just keeps harping on, like, no, she's just paranoid. As Nicole is literally dressed like a fucking burglar out of a Saturday morning cartoon in her house in the middle of the night looking to steal shit. I don't think that's paranoia. Paranoia indicates that there's some level of, like, delusion or, like, disconnect from reality. Carol is very grounded in reality. Nicole Mitchell is off in, like, fucking goober space.
Yep, there he is.
That window?
Over there, yep.
Okay. Is this her bag?
Must be. I don't know.
Yeah, stuck in the window.
I'm just hoping this mistake won't completely I know I did something bad. After the funeral, my aunt tried to help her. She thinks they stole from her when they were just trying to get her affairs in order.
Okay.
She has progressively cut off the family.
They find a backpack half pushed through the window. They eventually find 2 laptops in that bag, which coincidentally turns out Carol is missing 2 laptops. But we'll get to Nicole's excuse for that in a moment. She denies that the 2 laptops are Carol's. And now while talking to Nicole, she once again tries to harp on, like, oh, she's just, like, unreasonable, and she's just real out of it. She's gone loopy. She thinks everyone's out to get her, and so she's progressively cut off the family. To be honest with you, Nicole, I can see why she would progressively cut off the family here, considering one of the family members is breaking into her house in the middle of the fucking night, lying next to her bed doing, like, a tabletop challenge or something. It makes sense. I don't think it's paranoia. I think she made the completely correct call in cutting off this part of the family here. And she mentions the aunts, something Carol also mentioned without the 2 of them even communicating, so it's pretty clear that there is something going on with the aunts and Nicole and the finances here that Carol has after the passing of her husband.
Okay.
But she's got Alzheimer's, and she's gotten... I know this doesn't help. This is just going to prove the point. But she's gotten paranoid and thinks we're all out to get her and won't let anyone in the house. I just wanted to get a couple of my dad's mementos, and that's all.
Okay. So what kind of mementos?
A couple pictures and maybe one of his shirts.
So she's saying that Carol has Alzheimer's and thinks everyone's out to get her, and thus she broke into her house to get some of her father's mementos. Nicole, it does seem like you're out to get her, and I'm inclined to believe other members of the family are too, considering you've conspired with them to take some documents from her house. It does seem like she's 100% in the right to think that there are some members of the family out to get her.
Hi.
What's your name?
Nicole.
Are those laptops in your backpack yours?
Yes.
Okay. She's saying she's missing 2 laptops.
I mean, I can show you one. It's got my kid's Minecraft game on it.
Okay. What's the other one for?
I have one for work.
Okay.
She has Alzheimer's. She's been misplacing things. I can show you texts going back months saying, you know, things are missing, this and that.
Okay. I'm just asking, so it's not a reason to break anybody's house.
No, that wasn't my intention.
Already.
She decided to bring 2 laptops with her in the backpack to a burglary? It's an interesting plan. Her strategy, it escapes me, but I'm not a galaxy brain, mega mind level intellect like Nicole Mitchell, clearly. But they then talk more to Carol, and they're asking about, like, what did she take previously, and she mentions that what her and her aunts took last time were a bunch of bank papers. The officers are asking, well, why would she be taking these things? How does this help her? And then she mentions that her husband didn't have an actual will. So the bank papers and all of that, she believes, is for, like, inheritance stuff, like financial kind of gain. Which makes a lot of sense. Significantly more sense than Nicole's story.
Okay, how come it has Carol's name on it?
It was one that she had given me
Okay.
way back when to use for the kids.
Well, she's missing 2 laptops, is what she said. So I'm taking this laptop. How about this one? Okay, that one's got your name on it. Okay. That one will stay with your property, but I am taking this one.
That's fine.
Did you try shoving that backpack out and it didn't go out?
I want to answer your questions.
So one of them had Carol's name on it, and the other does seem to be actually hers. The state of Minnesota laptop right there. So she did, I guess, bring a laptop to this. My guess being she wanted to take Carol's laptop and upload things from it to hers, perhaps? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But it is very clear that she had some bad intentions. I don't think it was just to get some of her father's mementos. And in fact, she completely drops that narrative, by the way. After this arrest, this is the only time she tries making that claim. She then must have consulted with a lawyer or something, fucking called Saul, but Saul was too busy on Fent or something, because then she completely changes this story and goes with the narrative that she was actually only there to check on her stepmother's well-being because she cared so much. She just loves her so much and wanted to make sure she was okay.
Which is a felony, as well as possession of burglary tools. Mitchell was a Minnesota state senator at the time of her arrest and refused to resign after the incident. She accused her mother-in-law of suffering from paranoia about break-ins and senility. She also refused the release of the body cam footage. After her arrest, she posted on social media changing her story that she claimed in the body cam footage. Instead of saying she was there to take possession of her father's mementos, her social media post claims she was there to simply check on her stepmother due to her health issues, and she startled her, essentially putting the blame on the stepmother's medical problems.
Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on wellness checks here, but this seems like a really bad approach to checking on someone whom you believe to have declining mental health. To dress up like a burglar and then hide under their bed in the middle of the night unannounced, and then scaring the bejeebus out of them, then scurrying down to the basement while desperately trying to get through the window. I don't know, call me crazy, but it just doesn't really seem like the priority and the goal here with breaking into the house was just to make sure that your beloved stepmother was doing okay. I feel like if someone was wanting to check on me, they probably wouldn't bust into my fucking house in the middle of the night and hide under my bed, causing me to trip over them, still say nothing, by the way, and then just run away. I don't know, I wouldn't have that moment and be like, oh, thank God they checked on me. That wasn't a burglar, that was my best friend, no doubt, making sure that I'm doing okay. Ah, that's so sweet of them to stop by in their burglar costume in the middle of the night. What a crazy story to try and spin. There is no human being on the planet that would believe that. Like, her previous attempt with, like, getting her father's mementos, that makes sense if she had any of her father's mementos in her bag, which she didn't, apparently. So maybe that's why they tried this, because she couldn't, like, procure any of that. It clearly wasn't why she was there. So maybe the lawyer was like, if you try that, they're going to grill you on, well, why didn't you have the mementos? Whereas here, they can't tell you what you were actually there to do, I suppose. But you can definitely poke a hole in the logic of this. It makes no sense at all. She didn't check on Carol's health or anything. And if she was there to do that, why is she dressed like a burglar? Like, there are just so many obvious flaws with it. Though now I'm really playing with this thought experiment here, like how you'd possibly argue this. I guess maybe something you could squeak out is be like, oh, well, I thought Carol liked burglars. You know, some people really like clowns. You like clap at clowns, makes them laugh, makes them feel better. I thought Carol would feel better if I dressed like a burglar. I always thought she was a big fan of that get-up. I misunderstood, I'm sorry, but I really was there to check on her health. Like, I don't know, like, maybe you could try that?
This, however, doesn't line up with the fact that she was wearing the most cliché burglar outfit she possibly could have. She then put out a statement saying she has no intention of resigning from her seat in the Senate. However, in mid-July 2025, things took an unexpected turn for her.
New today, a Minnesota state senator found guilty of burglarizing her stepmother's home has officially resigned. She testified during her trial she was checking on her stepmom, not stealing from her. A jury disagreed, finding her guilty.
According to Midwest Safety, her sentencing is on the 10th, but she was found guilty of the burglary. I think we can say with confidence, probably one of the most unskilled burglars the video camera footage has ever captured. Like, this is Three Stooges level. So, yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah. I don't know if it's movies or Grand Theft Auto 5 that's rotted my brain, but when I think of bank robberies, I always picture some absolutely massive event that's thoroughly planned and it's a huge deal. Like when I hear, oh, a bank got robbed, I'm expecting the follow-up sentence to be, and then Spider-Man stopped the robbers. I've just always imagined bank robberies like it's straight out of a cartoon, you know, high-tech security, damn near impossible to pull off successfully. You know, you see like an Ocean's 11 movie, you're like, wow, no one's ever going to be able to actually rob a bank like this, huh? They've just always made it sound so fucking wild, saying things like, all right, we're going to need a 20-person team in order to pull this one off successfully, boys. The target is a 15-inch thick steel titanium concrete vault door that's protected by a retina scanner and biological deposit box for fingernail clippings, and it'll only accept it from the head honcho of the bank. You also have to sing the fast part to Eminem's Rap God, and if you fuck up a single lyric, the alarm sounds and the FBI is swarming within 30 seconds. It's also protected by a moat with 45 crocodiles inside and 24/7 security, and they're all ex-Navy SEALs. We're gonna have to be in and out within 5 seconds. The job is simple. You know, like, in my tiny reptile brain hears all this, and I'm like, wow. Well, no one's ever going to be able to actually rob a bank, huh? For some reason, I've just been under the assumption that banks in the real world have similar security protocol. Obviously, not with like all the sci-fi security protocols like infrared laser beams everywhere that you have to dodge. I've just been under the assumption that they're highly protected and robbing them is still extremely difficult. But in reality, that's just not the case. Bank robberies happen all the time, and they are nothing like they are in the movies. I want to show you a recent bank robbery that happened in Orlando. This is about a week old. You have to see this to believe it. Yeah, that's right. Your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. The alleged bank robber is Mr. Incredible himself. This dude threw on the Incredibles t-shirt, popped on the shades, and said, "It's showtime." And this was a successful robbery, by the way. I'll explain his method in just a moment, but here's the security camera footage showcasing the culprit. And he got away with it for now. He wasn't caught. He's still at large. So if you do recognize that man, make sure to call that Crime Stoppers hotline. Now, you're probably scratching your head wondering to yourself, where was the robbery? Charles, you forgot to show the climax. You didn't show where he actually robbed them. But you're wrong. You just witnessed the robbery. That was the entire operation. The extent of his plan was to go into the bank and ask for the money. So he demanded money from the teller and they gave it to him and he walked out. That's how that bank robbery went. He didn't flash any weapons. I haven't read any reports about him making threatening remarks or anything like that. They just explained that he demanded money from the teller, which he received, and then fled the scene. Now, the use of the word demanding in the reports leaves a lot of wiggle room for what could have been said or done from the guy to get the money. You know, maybe he went in there and was threatening the employees or seemed to just be like this menace. Maybe he treated it like a Call of Duty Xbox Live lobby and got real loud vocal screaming this and that. And I have always said it's never worth risking your life for the business you work at, you know? If someone comes in there and they're saying, you know, empty the register, you're gonna get it, bub, it's best just to comply. What's the point in risking life and limb for the business you work at? It's simply not worth it, plus insurance covers all of it for the business anyway, so it's just, you really shouldn't be, like, willing to die for your job, I would say. So I have no ill will towards the teller here who did give this guy the money. I just find it super interesting that this is the technique that was used for a successful bank robbery, just going up and asking for the money. It doesn't seem like he did anything beyond that. His plan was as simple as it gets. Can I have some more of that cash? In fact, I'm not asking, give me more of that cash. And they did. So I decided to look into it a bit. And it turns out all bank tellers are instructed to always follow the thief's instructions no matter the case, whether a weapon is produced or not. If there is a thief there demanding money, it is the bank teller's responsibility to follow it. They're instructed to follow along no matter what because their safety is of paramount importance. So that caught me by surprise because I wasn't sure. I knew bank tellers always had to go along with like someone who shows a weapon or something. Like they're not going to try and, you know, make a holdout and challenge them to a fist fight in order to disarm them or anything. I just thought like they had to produce like a weapon or some kind of threat or like reasonable showcase that they're going to cause a problem. I didn't realize that if they even just hinted at wanting to rob them, that they had to follow along. So that was a little surprising to me, but it makes complete sense and I completely agree with that ruling as well. However, I still think this guy's planning is lackluster, to say the least. He didn't even make an attempt to conceal his face. The closest thing he has to a disguise is just some sunglasses he picked up at the gas station, probably on the way to the bank. Now, I don't want to undersell the importance of his wardrobe pick for the day. I think the Incredibles shirt really sealed the deal. There's a good chance this crashes and burns if he's wearing just like a normal Abercrombie & Fitch shirt or something, but he threw on the Incredibles shirt. that right there adds like a +10 to intimidation. They didn't know who they were fucking with, and they weren't taking any chances. So he got away with it for now. He's managed to elude authorities, as I understand it. So overall, just like a really goofy, wild story that I happened to stumble across today and just wanted to share with all of you. This is not at all how I imagined bank robberies going in the real world. I very rarely have ever read about any in the real world, aside from like the big ones where there's getaway cars, like massive police chases, shootouts. You know, I haven't heard of any like this, so I just found it to be pretty interesting. That's about it. So yeah. You know that wild feeling where you take notice of something and then you start seeing it everywhere soon after? For example, you're driving around on the road and your little peepers catch a glimpse of a unique blue car and you're like, man, that's a really interesting color for a car. I don't see that very often anymore. And then you'll drive like a block up the road and then all of a sudden there's like 8 blue cars that come out of nowhere, it seems, and it's like, damn, now I'm trapped in an alternate dimension where there's only blue cars. How did this happen? I just saw one for the first time in a long time a block ago. There's actually a word for that. It's called the frequency illusion, or the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. I think that's how you pronounce it. I may have absolutely butchered it. I couldn't tell you. But basically what it is a cognitive bias where when you notice something for the first time, you start to notice it a lot thereafter. It kind of just puts that in your noodle and you become more perceptive and aware of it. And it makes it seem like all of a sudden it's more common than it is. I can still remember the first time I remember this happening to me. I was playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City and I saw a really rare vehicle that I don't think I'd ever seen before. So I did everything in my power to acquire it, and I finally do through blood, sweat, tears, elbow grease, and my little child brain was blown by how cool I felt with this new vehicle. And then as I'm driving away, there's like 8 more of those bitches driving in the opposite direction, and I was stunned. Now, maybe it was a game mechanic, I never even bothered to check, but I think more likely than not, it was just an example of this frequency illusion. Point is, the reason I'm mentioning this, I just made a video covering that forklift ATM heist from like 2 days ago, and now, all of a sudden, I've been inundated with stories that are popping up about, like, heavy machinery robberies, and I feel like this just has to be another example of the frequency illusion, because there's no way that this is a very common crime. There is no way that there's some kind of mind plague that's infecting people's brains, making them believe that stealing excavators, forklifts, front-end loaders, garbage trucks, in order to commit crimes with them is a good idea that will somehow work. Like, there's just no way that it's that common. It has to be, I'm more perceptive of it now. But to argue against myself, I don't think there ever would have been a time where my eyes would just glaze past a headline that talks about a guy stealing a front-end loader and stealing motorcycles with a fucking front-end loader. Like, I feel like I would have always been aware of that. So maybe this is just becoming like the new crime meta. Just stealing, like, machinery you'd find at some kind of mining operation and using that to commit crime across the city with? I don't know. But this shit is wacky. Let me go ahead and show you this front-end loader robbery and subsequent low-speed pursuit. This is actually some wild work out of GTA right now. I feel like you could have accomplished the same thing with just a brick. Like, I don't even think you needed to steal the front-end loader, to be honest. Like, it was probably a lot more difficult to find this vehicle than it would be to just find, like, a big rock. Oh, wait. I see. Now I see what the plan was. Wait, this guy's galaxy brain. This is an incredible scheme. He got the Christmas presents. I mean, he's kind of busting up the bikes on the way home here. He's not doing a great job of securing the package.
Put a damn mate. He is not stopping. He is not stopping.
I was legitimately stunned by the depth of this plan having more layers to it than just take big vehicle, crash into building, and then go in and take the goodies and call it a night. This guy pre-planned this for what I imagine must have been months. He not only found a front-end loader that was prime for the pickin', but then he also went into the building with ratchet straps, I guess, and put them together as if it was like fucking grapes on a vine, and then had the perfect attachment for the front-end loader, the hook, in order to actually carry away the bikes on it. Like, there was a lot more than I would have expected here. Like, Jesus Christ, I was half expecting the front-end loader to turn into a goddamn Decepticon committing the crime. This was a shocking revelation. And, of course, the subsequent chase afterwards is where everything went tits up. He clearly only planned the first part and not the second part. I don't know how he thought he could make some kind of inconspicuous getaway with a fucking rogue front-end loader with 2 motorbikes dangling off of it like truck nuts. Like, there was no world where that wouldn't tip off the authorities. And this is not exactly the optimal getaway vehicle. So you can see the vehicle's not really zooming around too quickly and the bikes are banging against each other. I also couldn't help but giggle at the officer telling him to put it down like it's a child who's got a cookie he wasn't supposed to have before eating his vegetables. Like, brother, this man stole a front-end loader. You think he's just going to give up that easily? No. He is committed to this for the long haul.
Okay, run over the bikes. Everybody stay well clear of this tractor.
Oh, he already dropped them, but oh boy. Oh boy. This vehicle's not fast enough for this kind of engagement. And he shed the entire front battering ram. Oh god. I don't know how he gets out of this one. Unless his friend stole a helicopter and then gets like a giant magnet to airlift him out. I don't think there's any way he actually gets out of this situation though. Oh! Oh! He's ripping some gnarly maneuvers. This is a very interesting chase. We left the roads and now we're in God's country. Oh my god. Wait, the officer's on the tracks too. Wait, this officer action here is about it. This man's like, it's finally my chance. I didn't think I'd ever get to do this. We're gonna need a good Samaritan to pull him over and like an equally strong front loader. Fight fire with fire.
In the bush. Got all his clothing in the creek.
Oh boy. We're on foot now. He's naked.
Hands in the air now! Good boy, mate, good boy!
He tried to throw off the dog's scent by getting nude. But that was a pretty cool chase. That was one of the more interesting ones I've seen in a while. Should have found a skunk and got sprayed. Your brain is huge. That's such a good idea. Yeah, he could have hidden his scent if he had just subjected himself to the skunk smell. But then he still would have needed to find a really good hiding place where they wouldn't find him. Instead of throwing your clothes away, just dress up as a deer. I don't know. If you're going to try and disguise yourself, I think you actually have a better chance of disguising yourself as a cop. Like, imagine he gets out of the front loader, runs into the forest, and he has, like, a cop uniform waiting for him, complete with, like, flashlight and everything, and service pistol, and he's, like, just looking around and just talking with the boys. Like, you'd probably get further with that approach. They finally caught him, but this man was operating on, like, demon mode here. He hatched a nefarious plot with the front-end loader, and he tried to see it through, but he didn't quite have what it takes. I still can't believe that he had the chutzpah to steal a front-end loader, get the proper, like, hook attachment for it, get the ratchet straps, and set up the motorbikes in a way that they can be lifted out with the front-end loader and hook. But he didn't plan the most obvious part, which would be, how the fuck do you get away? He had no plan for that. All he did was start just driving down public roads and then was, like, shocked that the cops somehow got on his tail. I don't understand. And this is, like, as I mentioned in the very beginning, this feels like it's being more common, with stealing things like excavators and forklifts and all that to commit wild crime. Like, it feels like it's being more common, but again, this could just be an example of the frequency illusion. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, it's always wild when that happens. Jinkies. It is always such an adventure to watch that. But anyway, yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Yes, I know the quality of the webcam is less than stellar. It looks like the footage from The Dark Knight when the Joker is, like, selfieing himself as he's torturing a guy. I know it doesn't look great. It's highly pixelated, looking like PlayStation 1 graphics, Charles here, but it is what it is. It's the only webcam that I have, and I really want to talk about something since I can't sleep, which has become all too common. It's extremely late right now. It's 3 a.m. I gotta get up at 7 a.m. and I didn't sleep last night and I'm not sleeping tonight. Insomnia is absolutely beating my cheeks in and it's making me mad. But the only thing that makes me more upset than not being able to sleep is porch pirates. And that's what we're here to talk about. Since I was tossing and turning, having nothing but the most inopportune moments for deep existential thoughts, which kept me awake, I decided I'd go on the cyberspace to see if there's any kind of lullabies that could put me to sleep. You know, maybe Jigglypuff could sing me a song or something. But instead, all I found were two very peculiar cases of porch pirates stealing some packages that I just think are really interesting, so let's talk about them. You know that trope that exists in anime and other fiction where the villain is super smart with like the most creative and most galaxy brain scheme imaginable? Yeah, it doesn't usually happen in the real world. It's usually just a bunch of fucking brain-dead morons that have the dumbest ideas and then commit a crime. But not in this case. We finally have a rare unicorn here with a turbo genius criminal. So, they wanted to steal a package, but they didn't want their identity to be compromised because most people have Ring doorbells or something similar in this day and age. So, how do you get around this? They don't have the mask technology that Mission Impossible does or anything, so they had to get creative. It seems like they found a nearby traffic cone and hid inside of it, which does a great job of concealing not only their face, but their whole body. This could be a full-grown man, full-grown woman, or a child. There's no telling. The only clues we have to go on are the barefoot pitter-patter from the door to the driveway. That's it. That's not a whole lot of clues. You'd have to get the forensics team out there and start like swabbing the concrete to see if you can get some kind of like DNA off it, maybe? I have no idea. So they might actually get away with this one. I do have a working theory though. I think the culprit here is someone that is familiar with the family. I think it's a family friend or maybe even a nearby neighbor. They knew they could be easily identified by the homeowner, which is why they took such extreme measures here. That, or it's staged. This could just be faked. This could be just a prank, like a staged video for the sake of it going viral, which it absolutely did. But I like to pretend and suspend disbelief here. I like to think that this was a real instance of a porch pirate coming up with a really creative solution. But anyway, there's no further updates that I can find on this story, so this menace is still at large. Sleep in fear. Or in my case, don't sleep at all, because insomnia is a real bitch. But also, if there's any traffic cones nearby, you might want to hide them somewhere so that way they can't be utilized like this and steal your packages. Now, while this one could be faked, the next one is not, because they've been caught. Though they did have an equally creative idea on how to get away with stealing packages. I'm kidding, it's actually a really fucking stupid idea. I'll just go ahead and show you the news segment on it.
DoorDash driver arrested. Police say she was caught on camera instead of taking. Take a look here. Police say Juliana Sagaram stole a package, as you see right there, from a Manhasset home last month. Video shows a woman walking up to the doorstep on Highland Terrace holding a brown paper bag there, and police telling us it was a Chipotle order she was supposed to deliver nearby. Neighbors say this is unbelievable.
So Juliana's plan was simple and also not super effective because she didn't get away with it. There were a lot of holes in this scheme. It wasn't exactly a bulletproof plan. While doing food delivery, she decided to take this package here, and I guess her whole idea was if she's in the middle of a food delivery, no one would think twice about her going up to the front of a house, and then she could make a getaway with the package without anyone stopping her. So it seems the whole idea was to avoid suspicion by having a good cover story. No, I'm not here to steal packages. I'm here to deliver food. You're out of order. You lost your marbles. But she failed to account for modern technology, where most people have like Ring doorbells now or anything that records video outside their home, because of the rising problem of porch pirates. So it didn't do anything to prevent the authorities from seeing who she was. And I guess really she just wanted to make sure no one would like interfere with her plan. But I don't know how common that is. Like, I don't feel like there's a ton of people that recognize when a porch pirate is striking, because they usually run up, grab it, and run away. There's not a whole lot of time for someone to fucking swoop in and stop them, unless of course she's doing this in Gotham City and Batman happened to be nearby in the neighborhood. Like, I just don't think that is really commonplace. So overall, Buddy with the traffic cone over his head actually had a more effective strategy than she did. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about these because they were super silly. They both came up with pretty creative plans on how to be a scumbag, and one of them so far has got away with it. The other one is at least facing charges, so that's good that she's, been caught. And I guess we'll see if the traffic cone supervillain pops out of hiding at some point again in the future. But anyway, that's about it. See ya.